Hello, this is John Paval. I'm back with the, wait, let me make sure I've got the microphone up. Yeah. I am back with at Intermission here at the concert house in Stockholm, where the Royal Stockholm Philharmonic has just been playing Elfrida Andrée's overture to the concert, and then Mats Larsson Bothe's world premiere of his cello concerto, which he composed for the man who played it for him. I learned something interesting about Elfrida Andrée from the program notes. Apparently, the first time she had one of her symphonies performed in Stockholm. I mean, they treated her very badly at the time. The first time a Stockholm orchestra was going to play one of her symphonies, it turned out that they were so under rehearsed, they had so poorly rehearsed that the first violin was out of rhythm or out of time with the rest of the orchestra. And the further it went on, the worse the performance was. So before it was over, I think around the third movement, she walked out. She just left. And after that, did not try to get her works performed in Stockholm anymore. She would sometimes go down to Leipzig, where her works were performed. And she wrote a lot more chamber music, which she could have more control over. And she, when she wanted to have another of her symphonies performed again in Gothenburg, where she was the organist at the cathedral, she had it done at the cathedral, where she could control it and conduct it herself and make sure that they had actually rehearsed the piece. Now, this piece by Mats Larsson Bothe, the guy that he wrote it for, the cellist, actually, there's a lot more history between the two of them. Torleif the Dan, 15 years ago, Mats Larsson Bothe had already written a violin and cello concerto, violin, cello, and orchestra concerto for Torleif to play in, and they have collaborated together on other pieces as well. So this was not something new. The piece itself was well, I don't understand this kind of music. Let me just say that, which doesn't mean I can't enjoy it, but I understand traditional classical music, which is, you have like separate movements and there's a structure that you can follow. And this piece is not like that, although it did have a structure, but it wasn't as though there were like separation between movements. No, there might have been a moment's hesitation, but it was really more like all of one piece rather than a concerto in separate movements. And but they were lovely. It started out, if you were watching it, if you're lucky, you were watching the live stream at the concert house website. And if you weren't, then I urge you to at least do that. Be prepared to do that for the second half of this concert, because this is a really fine orchestra. And I think I printed out on paper the website so that you could. I didn't have a way of putting it on. This is the website that you want to go to. It's Concertus, Konserthus, ET, concerthus.se. And when you go there, you go to the play page and you can watch the rest of the concert for free. If you want to watch the replay, it's not going to be out for a couple of weeks' time. But anyway, the cello concerto, it started out with the cellist playing a very strange tone on the instrument, which reminded me of that instrument that they would use sometimes in scary movies. They don't actually touch it; they just move their hands near this metal thing and go. It was like that. It was that kind of a sound. And then he was using. There was a continuo playing. Very sweet notes, and then there was a percussionist who was playing little bells and a triangle, and this went on for some time. This interplay between the two of them. Then it moved on into other things. But this was a good 3 to 5 minutes of this very unusual combination of the cello sound, but cello playing very high notes, not the deep, rich bass stuff, and then all of these tinkly sounds around it. And it took off from that. Well, it went on from that, and I'm not a musicologist. I can't explain the rest of it to you. As for the Elfrida Andrée's overture, what I heard was a lot of the influence of Nielsen, and nothing in the program notes said that she was influenced by Nielsen. But to me, it sounded like film music. It really did. And Nielsen had a great impact. The Danish composer had a great impact on film music, because Bernard Herrmann, the guy who wrote many of the fantastic soundtracks for Alfred Hitchcock's films, was a great fan of Nielsen and promoted the playing of this work by orchestras at the time. Anyway, and so I thought it was a very lovely piece in that sense. It was very coherent. I wouldn't call it strong. I wouldn't call it a piece which suggested to me that she really wanted to write symphonic music. It sounded more like she wanted to write the kind of music that was written for films in the 30s and 40s, where you have some very simple, basic themes, but they get reworked in more dramatic ways, in a more simple way than the complexities of the layers upon layers and the different sections that you'd have in a symphony. Now, I don't know her symphonies, so I don't know how it would compare to any of that. Anyway, the next step here was I thought, I'm going to experiment here. The last time I did one of these intermission talks, I was fortunate enough to be sitting next to a guy who turns out to be a concert pianist, Martin Sturfeld. And he's had some great discussions of the music. But I thought I'd wander out here in the lobby. And first I'll wander out here in the lobby. I'll show you the people out here. This is the lobby on the first balcony. Oh, and yeah, let me show you the inside of the concert hall too. I'm not sure how well these interviews are going to go. You can see, if you look closely, I don't know if you can see them, but they have a lot of cameras. There are 9 or 10 cameras that are permanently posted for when they do live stream. There's a first and second balcony, and then I usually sit back here in this corner of the first balcony, where people invited by the musicians are often seated. So there are always empty seats in that area. Hello. I don't know who I'm going to stop and ask about this, but I'll talk to these guys. Hey, are you Swedish?
Yeah.
You speak English?
Yeah.
You want to be interviewed? You want to talk about? I'm live streaming right now. I'm live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and what's the other one? We're not on Instagram now because it doesn't play with the other people. And because I have an online service where I promote the live streaming of the performing arts. So we're constantly pumping out information. There are like 35 to 40 live streams of musical performances every week. They're symphonies. It's chamber music, operas. There's an opera being live streamed, La Bohème, down at the Teatro Regio di Parma right now while we're speaking. There's like 5 different terrific live streams going on. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about is, if you don't mind, I can actually turn the camera around so people can see you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
That's great. Now, are you guys in the music school? Is that why you're here? Are you from KMO or?
No, we're actually on the German school here in Stockholm. And we're here because we developed the classical music app, and we're talking about the partnership with the Concerto.
Oh, you have a classical music app?
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So I picked the right people to talk. Well, what does your app do?
Well, it shows you a daily piece of classical music and gives you a bit about the story behind the piece, and also some music examples from the piece. So you can listen to the piece while learning about it.
Oh, God, you should let me know about that, because we can let people know on our channels, let our followers know. What did you think of the music? First of all, what did you think of the first piece?
I think it was very nice. As an introduction, I think it was very beautiful. liked it.
Were you familiar with her as a composer?
No,
Well, if you're German, I would think not.
that was the first time I heard a piece from her.
Yeah. You know, there's a story in the program that the first time she tried to have one of her symphonies performed here in Stockholm by another orchestra, that they didn't rehearse it. so the first violinist was off the beat. He was not playing in tune with all the, and it just got worse. And she walked out, like around the third movement. So she after that she didn't try getting her thing. But what I thought of it was, and I wonder if you'd agree with me. To me, it reminded me of film music. It had very much like a 1930s and 40s film music quality.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that that's similar to Nielsen. If you know the music of the Danish composer Nielsen, and I know that Nielsen's music influenced American film music because Bernard Herrmann, the guy who wrote all those great soundtracks for Hitchcock, he was a fan of Nielsen and pushed to get Nielsen's music promoted.
You're doing live streaming.
Yeah, I'm doing live streaming right now. No, not inside. No, only during the intermission.
No, you have to.
Yes. Yes. Abs.
That's it.
Yes. I know. No, we're not breaking the law here. Okay. So, all right. So then, what did you think about the second piece? Because the second piece is, this is very interesting. Two pieces nobody has really heard, and one from 1900 and one from now.
I really like the texture in the beginning of the cello concerto. You know, the start, the strings, and very light notes from the cello.
Yeah. When he had all those weird, it was very mystical, that opening where they had very high pitched cello playing. And it reminded me of that weird instrument. You know the one I'm talking about? They used to use it in scary movies. It goes, yeah. And it was a little bit like that tone quality to it.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder if someone could have composed for that tone quality if that instrument had not existed before. You know what I'm saying? Just to get the idea that this kind of a sound exists. And then there was all those tinkling sounds in the background. Which to me were like light. I kept thinking these are like little lights glowing around, and the cello's like the music. Another thing that I thought was unusual, but do you guys know a lot about music? If you have an app? Okay. So I have not seen all the strings, the bass, the cellos, the violas and the violins all plucking at the same time. I've seen soloists plucking the strings, but I haven't seen. Are you familiar with that? Have you seen, are there pieces where the whole orchestra just plucking away at the strings?
Maybe there's some modern piece, but I mean in the classic repertoire they're usually playing on the strings.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was very. But do you understand this kind of music? Like, did you understand the structure of that piece?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think you have to listen to it a few times to really get it. But I don't know. But I think that because you have to listen to it a few times. I'm not sure I didn't get it, but I thought that when you listen to it the first time, I think you're more like holding on to really interesting moments. But I mean, to get the complete understanding.
Just an impression.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like in a traditional concerto, you hear it. I mean, you know what the structure is. I mean, you come to the end of the first move, and then there's this pause. And this one, I felt like this was all just like a continuum. It was like maybe they would stop for a moment, but it wasn't even like a rest.
Sometimes I was thinking, like, how did they get to this point? Where it was like...
Yes. Yeah. I always felt like there was something there that he got from point A to B and C and D, but I didn't know what it was. You know, I didn't know what the straight line was.
But the opening was really unusual for a cello concerto with the extremely light cello playing.
Yes.
And I think that like the second movement was very light, powerful, and much louder than the first movement.
Yes.
The first movement was much calmer than the second movement, and like it's usually the other way around.
Yeah. Well, Mats Larsson Bothe, So that was true. I thought that. I mean, this is a very unusual concert for me because usually I've heard some of the music before I'm there.
Yeah.
And I've heard. Well, everybody knows the Stenhammar Second Symphony, at least in Sweden. So that won't be any surprises. Look, thanks a lot for talking with me, you guys. Before we leave tonight, I want to get info so we can follow up. And do you have is your app online already?
Yeah, it's
Well, where do
App
people
Store and Google Play.
tell people what it is?
So it's called Symphonium. You can search Symphonium on the App Store.
And how do you spell Symphonium?
With PH, like symphony.
SYMPHONIUM. Have you got it on your phone there?
I can maybe show it on.
Yeah, open it up on your phone. We'll give you a little free ad. I don't think the Royal Stockholm Symphony is ever going to work with me. I've tried to work with them in the past. They didn't even answer my emails. They said, "Who is this guy?"
So do you live in Sweden or do you?
Yeah, I live part-time in Stockholm and part-time
So
in...
this is the app on the...
Okay, there's the app. Let me get it close so they can see Symphonia.
Yeah.
And this app, I'll turn this around so they can see me now. So what this app is going to do, it's going to show you, it's going to give you background information.
Yeah.
Okay,
Here's today's piece. It's Dvorak's 8th Symphony.
yes.
And you can read a bit like about the piece, and there's always like a matching painting here.
Yes.
So you can look at the painting, and it kind of fits the mood of the piece.
Okay.
And then you can listen to some extract. Now I have no internet, so you can't see it, but you can listen to some music.
Okay.
From the piece.
All right. So like if you know there's a concert coming up, and
Yeah.
you want to know, well, do I want to go see it? Well, then you can look up the piece and listen to some extracts from it.
Yeah. We actually did the card on Stenhammar's Second Symphony leading up to this.
Oh, you did?
So this is the card on.
Hold on a second. What are you telling people about Stenhammar in the second?
So,
piece?
or I can
There
read
it
it's like in 1910 he was at the crossroads. The death of Mahler marked the end of the great Austrian German symphonic tradition, and composers were struggling to find their next step.
Yeah.
After hearing Sibelius' Second Symphony, Stenhammar faced an artistic crisis,
Yeah.
leading him to revoke his First Symphony. Seeking a new direction, he turned to counterpoint and a deeper connection to Swedish folk music, determined to create a sound uniquely his own.
Yeah.
And here are some audio examples that you can check out,
Okay.
and you can like read about the piece and also about him. You can read a bit from his biography.
Just to add to that, I think part of what Stenhammar was doing during that period, but what had happened was the first symphony was a hit.
Yeah.
That came out in 1903, and he was like famous, and everybody loved him. Wonderful guy, and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He thought it was a little pompous, and he didn't think it was very enriched.
Yeah.
It wasn't what he wanted. So that's why when he saw the Sibelius Second Symphony, it killed him because it was, this is what he wanted to write.
Yeah.
But what I liked in what I read about it was that what he wanted to do was find himself.
Yeah.
And put himself in the music. In other words, be composing more sincerely who he was. And I think that kind of a quest for an artist, that's like gold, but because it means their life and their art become the same thing. It's like, wow. Okay, well, listen. Thank you guys again. I will look up Symphonium. Goodbye. I think I'm going to log off now because I think we've said all there is to say about it. So we'll catch up with you again later, guys. All right. Take care. I'll contact you by email or something after I've looked up Symphonium. Well, that was terrific. We talked with some interesting people, and I think I'm going to let this go now. This is after we've done 20 minutes worth of this. I will come back at the end of the concert with just a few words to wind it up. I hope this has been enjoyable for you, and I hope it may serve as an example sometime to some of these.
Maybe just add one thing. If you search for Symphonium on Google Play, you have to search with quotation marks around the title, because otherwise it doesn't show up on Google Play.
If you want to search for that Symphonium app on Google Play, you got to put quotation marks around it. Otherwise it's not going to show up. You're quite welcome. It's good that you keep pushing it. Okay. they've rung the bell for us to go back in, so I'm going back in under door number 13, where I always love to sit. The cheap seats in the back, the left-hand side of the balcony, where invitees of the orchestra musicians often sit. For those of you who tuned in, I hope you enjoyed it. It was interesting for you. For those of you who see it later recording, well, you missed it. And if you're interested, as soon as I log off, I encourage you to go back, go to the Royal Symphony's own website, which is concerthuset.se, Konsert, HUSET, concerthuset.se, and you'll find the play thing, and you can see the second half, which will be the lovely Stenhammar Second Symphony, in which the man felt that after years of exploration and struggle, he had found himself and was able to express himself as an artist the way he wanted to. Ciao for now.